The late 90s and early 2000s saw the rise of the early internet, a time where information began spreading at a rapid rate, where people from all around the world began to connect with each other, sparking discussion on dedicated forums, building websites for personal interests, or playing some of the earliest multiplayer games. As the internet started to meld into our day-to-day lives, it would also pop up in other areas too, notably inside our media, and manga was no exception, with one of the biggest manga magazines in the world having an interesting relationship with it. Throughout my time making videos on Shonen Jump, I've done a lot of research into its history as a magazine, and the manga that ran through it. And now, tackling this specific period of history, the late 90s into the early 2000s, I've noticed a fascination with, and numerous inclusions of, the internet in manga. Computers popping up, video games being played, searches being conducted, authors bringing up their relationship with the topic. For one reason or another, it sparked an interest within me. The idea of this burgeoning culture and conflux of ideas the early internet has brought about is inherently interesting. It's also a period of my life when I was still far too young to understand what the internet really was, and for a large part of my childhood I was sheltered from it, only really coming to grasp with what the net was in my teens. So I thought it would be interesting to compile my findings from various manga surrounding the new millennium, how they integrate or talk about the internet, and how Jump was viewed on the internet at the time. In an age where it's now been inundated by so much corporate greed, intrusive ads, functionality that only serves to get in the way, and a mentality surrounding generating clicks or content, it's easy to forget that the internet can be an amazing and almost magical invention that ties humanity together. I think a great example of this is its use in Hikaru no Go, a 1999 Jump debut that sees author Yumi Hotta pair up with Takeshi Obata, who you will know as the artist behind the likes of Death Note and Bakuman. It's a story about the board game Go, seeing its protagonist Hikaru Shindo fall in love with the game due to the help of his ghost buddy Fujiwara no Sai. I think the inclusion of Internet Go is very interesting here, as during this time period people would have been less familiar with the internet, and any children reading would have likely had the same perspective as a fellow child than Ghost, who has zero concept of what any of this is, coming from a different time period. It's all explained simply and sleekly, down to little chat window pop-ups, as well as the idea that it allows people to play Go from all over the world. This aspect is incredibly important to the series too, as Hikaru no Go illustrates through its run how a simple game like Go can connect people. It brings together many children at Hikaru's school. Hikaru also gradually befriends people outside of school too, of all ages, and eventually people from other countries like China and Korea. Most prominently though, it also connects him across time to Sai, the ghost who lingers around Hikaru and plays games through him. It's Sai ultimately who passes this love of Go onto Hikaru and gets him interested in continuing the legacy of the game. The internet in time would also act as a database for Go, of old games or moves played, tutorials, places to play the game online, as has been depicted here. I find the internet's inclusion to be an excellent example that interweaves current world events and trends into the framework of the story very naturally. Furthermore, there's another element of the internet present in Hikaru no Go I find very interesting. It's anonymity. During the Internet Go arc, Hikaru and Sai end up using it as a way for Sai to play games against others. While he can play through Hikaru, Hikaru will always be present and will have to act like he's playing. Others will think they are playing Hikaru and not Sai. This spawns all sorts of interesting ideas and plotlines for the story, though I adore the time Sai gets to play over the internet. Through eliminating the human body through becoming anonymous, Sai is given more of a presence. He can play as himself without the worry that others will see it as Hikaru playing. I think this is a beautiful way of showing the power of anonymity and how the internet can give people a voice. For some, being physically present is hard and anxiety-inducing, be it due to illness, self-conscious thoughts regarding to your image, or other factors. You can easily imagine a character in Hikaru no Go that's a hikikomori, or extremely afraid of human interaction, but still loves Go. In this case, the internet and Internet Go would give them a stage to do what they love without risking being seen. In a meta sense, this idea is also ingrained into this video. I'm not an especially social person and have difficulties communicating with people, especially if it's face to face. I also would have no place to discuss the topics I do locally either, but the internet helps to eliminate some of those social factors, and it brings me together with people who have similar interests from all around the world without those people needing to know everything about me. So while Internet Go isn't a major focus of the series, only appearing sporadically after a short arc at the beginning, I think it's still a very important piece in helping build Hikaru no Go's narrative and characters while also enriching its setting. There's also a moment during the end of this Internet Go arc where Hikaru's rival Akira Toya, suspicious of Hikaru being the master online Go player Sai, goes to catch him in the act, only to find Hikaru on the Shonen Jump homepage, which I think is a really cute way of advertising their website. And speaking of that website, let's look into it a little bit. Long before we had things like Jump Plus or even its predecessor Jump Live, we had the website Pop Web Jump, launching in 1998 when the magazine began to put more focus into its digital and multimedia ventures. This came about when editor-in-chief Kazuhiko Torishima took charge of the magazine, pulling it out of its slump after its golden age had ended, with works like Dragon Ball and Slam Dunk ending. Alongside pushing Jump to be even more ruthless and putting a focus on new authors, it was this approach to embrace a broader array of media and new ideas that returned Jump's crown to it as the best-selling manga magazine in the world, with the help of many new hit series, of course. Finding info about the original website is a bit tricky, but I'm sure it's out there, though thankfully we do have many saved snapshots of it on the Wayback Machine, with the oldest dating back to 2001, which is thankfully part of the main period I'm referring to. Initially, I was met with some difficulty as I couldn't view the site's contents due to Flash Player not being installed or working incorrectly, something that was ubiquitous in the days of the early internet but has now since been discontinued. This rears its head with the old internet sometimes, and is an example of older internet architecture falling out of favor and limiting accessibility. But thanks to some boyfriend magic, I managed to work around the problem through the use of a Flash emulator, so here we go. The furthest back we can go is 2001, which gives us a version of the site where it displays many of Jump's most prominent series at the time. You can hover over their main heroes and it'll reveal some info about those series, also leading you to external pages, though in my experience these haven't worked. I'm sure they'd lead to auxiliary pages and give even more info, or maybe even let you read some of the manga. I did see it written down somewhere that Jump were experimenting with digital manga during this period. This also seems to be the page referenced in Hikaru no Go, with some series being swapped out. Where things get a bit more interesting is in 2002, where the site seems to have had a bit of a reboot, making things much clearer, though not losing any charm. You have the Jump Pop Web logo front and center, a carousel of the currently running series on the left side, and on the right side, the current newest issue of Jump, complete with a little blurb about it. Numerous other web pages exist too, sparkling little GIFs that shine brightly like neon signs, and an abundance of color which you sadly don't see much on the net anymore. There are numerous barriers for me here. Aside from not everything working correctly and the web design being pretty archaic, I also have a slim grasp of Japanese, so much so that I can't read any of this currently, though maybe one day I'll revisit this with a better grasp of the language. Still, this didn't stop me from having a look around as well as jumping to the future, where the website changes again and again over time. There was something especially cool I found though. In the center of the 2002 version of the Jump website, a few series are represented. The big dogs of the time: One Piece, Naruto, Prince of Tennis, Black Cat, and JoJo. Each seems to have something special attributed to it, like a game, though many did not seem to want to work. But for JoJo, we do have a fully functioning pinball machine. This is tied to the old OVA series for Stardust Crusaders. Half of this series came out between 1993 and 1994, though in 2000, 7 more episodes would be produced, making it close enough to advertise with a virtual pinball machine. I suck at pinball evidently, though I love how charming this is, having its own little animations on the side showing you each Crusader representing one of your 5 balls. There's also some music here, as well as sound effects with the 3 bumpers at the top of the screen sounding out ora oras as you hit them, which can lead to some very funny moments. It's things like this that make exploring the internet an absolute gem. I had no expectation I'd run into anything remotely functional, never mind this fun. I could go on and on about each webpage or rabbit hole this website leads down. There's also the Western version of the website too that's a little different with its own set of articles, though it has a similar structure. Going back to 2002, either something very wrong has happened or someone else has registered the domain before Viz could, as I was greeted with old school porn pop-ups and a message that reads, "Call this number for Japanese gay fun." Late 2002 to early 2003 seems to be where the site really picks up in earnest, though unfortunately much of the images don't load. Eventually, we do reach a similar state to the 2002 Japanese version, full of info on what available series were running at the time, articles mentioning Hikaru no Go and Rurouni Kenshin joining the Western lineup. You could even read select issues of some series, and while they don't seem to be readable today, I think that's really neat that you could have read them online at this time. You can also still get some sick wallpapers for your PC as well, over 2 decades later. This process of exploring the internet is another core facet I want to explore, and interestingly, Hunter x Hunter devotes a portion of its story to the idea of internet research. So much happens within the series that I don't blame anyone for forgetting, but there's this period between Heaven's Arena and York New City, the second and third major arcs, where Gon and Killua are figuring out what to do next. This involves them investigating a mysterious box, which once opened, provides them with a few objects, including a ring, a VHS tape, and a memory card for a video game console. Looking into the video game memory card further reveals that it contains save data for a game called Greed Island, which Killua has never heard of despite being a bit of a gamer, so they keep researching, contacting people who may know more, like Killua's brother Miluki. Hearing about rumors, being referred to different sites, reaching dead ends, finding people with irreputable information which want to scam them, all of this is part of the process. Eventually, they do end up getting the URL to a Hunter-specific website, where they get the information they need. I love how it's laid out too, creatively and diegetically. It's a bar where you hear rumors and you have to click on the bartender to get any info. It's fun and exactly like the very first Pop Web Jump website. The lack of definition at this time, where websites didn't yet abide to this homogeneous idea of how things should be laid out, is such a treasure. People would get really wacky and creative with things, and I think this and Pop Web Jump is a good demonstration of this. It also clicked with me while reading these chapters that Gon and Killua are hunting. They're hunting for information, scrolling through websites, checking links, asking others in the community. It's what so many of us do day to day. It's also what I do a ton of to make these videos, and my very specific actions being conveyed through these characters all the way back in the year 2000 made me feel very seen in an interesting way. It also goes to show how unchanging the internet is in some respects. From its inception, it's had these rabbit holes and databases which people will endlessly scroll through, either for enjoyment or to hunt down a specific piece of data or an answer. Togashi is someone very eclectic who loves many things and topics, as well as the idea of collecting, which I think goes hand in hand with hunting. I can absolutely imagine him surfing the early web, and in this instance, I think he's put that experience directly into Hunter x Hunter. Another mangaka who is somewhat tied to the internet is Ryo Fujisaki, the author of works like Hoshin Engi and Whack Whack from Jump, with them later going on to do manga adaptations for Shiki and The Legend of Galactic Heroes. Their first series in Jump though was the video game inspired Psycho Plus, coming out in 1992. It had a focus on computers and games in a way that felt almost ahead of its time. Also, for whatever reason, the little comments in the afterwards and bonus pages of Hoshin Engi always spring to mind when I think of Fujisaki, with them often bringing up their experiences with computers or the internet, with them even bringing up the Pop Web Jump website soon after its initial creation. He also served as an example of an author who admits to reading what others have had to say about his series online, and goes on to encourage others to email him about Hoshin Engi. I think this is as good a time as any to talk about the early fans of Jump and forum culture, in a very general sense. I don't really intend to spend a long time looking into older forums, and anything I say is not all-encompassing here, as I cannot account for the thousands of people across thousands of websites and the things they post. Internet forums have acted as a digital water cooler for decades, with many still existing today. One of the places that Jump was likely talked about would have been the Anonymous Textboard 2 channel, and quite possibly its predecessors or similar boards, which I'd either not heard of or have just been lost to time. The Western 4chan definitely has a culture of talking about Shonen Jump, but the board you can still check today, though don't take that as a recommendation to do so. Yahoo might have been used a lot too in its early days to converse about Jump as well. For other places on the internet, though this is thus a place, Usenet, the precursor to internet forums, had a lot of manga discussion on it as well. Friends of the channel, Crash and Doofy, made a video about it some years back where they explore the thoughts of manga readers from decades ago, which I'd point to if you'd like more early internet exploration surrounding manga. I'll leave a link to the video down in the description. Other Western sites exist as well, like the popular Manga Helpers, where regular discussion in the magazine can be found, though we're moving deeper into the 2000s there. For another Japanese site which act as more of a database, we have Sakuhin DB, or Works Database, that catalogs various media, including the manga of Weekly Shonen Jump. This also has its own textboard-like section, which has been very valuable in hearing the thoughts of others on older Axe Shonen Jump manga, with some people's posts regularly venturing back to the early 2000s. Now that I'm entering the new millennium with my research on Shonen Jump, it's become more frequent to see some series be described as legendary due to their notoriety across the net. Jump has a rich history stemming back to 1968, and over that time they have serialized all sorts of manga, with the occasional one being batshit insane, often leading to ridicule or some kind of confused reactions which you can see across the net years later. I think you can sum a lot of this up through the idea that the internet gave people two major things in this period of time: community and a voice, which in turn would spread and evolve, eventually conjuring memes through these ideas and behaviors digitally crystallizing. This has given rise to countless jokes across the years, as well as these little rituals or ideas that we naturally propagate. In Jump's case, the year 2000 presented us with a pretty solid example of this happening. Normandy Secret Club is a comedy manga about a group of students who attend a manga club at their school. It ran in Jump for just shy of a year, though most seem to say it wasn't particularly great, being enjoyable enough or fairly boring. This led to the idea of the Norman or Normandy phenomenon, an occurrence where a manga wasn't necessarily well liked, but it was allowed to stay within the magazine for some time, not getting axed as every other new series that began around it were worse. It's not a phrase that's used much anymore, but if you investigate these older Jump series on Japanese message boards or blogs, you'll see it brought up here and there. Things like this still occur today too. We see it through the more modern interpretation of memes and jokes that spread across the internet like wildfire, and in Jump's case, 2017 saw the series U19 begin, a cancelled manga about a group of children overthrowing their fascist adult overlords. It was not met with favourably, often mocked for its premise, with jokes arising about it, and soon enough the term U19 would be born, the meaning of the under 19 being changed from referring to the children in the story being under 19 to manga which get axed within Jump, which also happen to have less than 19 chapters. It spawned a new idea of these series within Jump that get cancelled so quickly they enter this new abyssal territory, marked as the worst of the worst. U19 itself also falls into this category too, living up to its namesake, which completes the meme in ironic fashion. While it is a little mean-spirited, it's an idea that stuck, and I don't necessarily think it needs to be wholly derogatory. Sometimes Jump is brutal and it leads to a collection of manga that got incredibly shortchanged. This is the U19 Club. Memes exist of it too, which involve manga that meet the club's requirements getting recruited into the club. Most recently, Alien Headbutt has joined, which is a shame as it's a pretty fun series I would have liked to see more of. I think this does go to show though that the ideas the internet spread are not always kind. In fact, I usually find there's a lot more bad than good. Misinformation is abound, people attacking each other for one reason or another is a common sight. During my time reading Jump, I found entire forums dedicated to hating on specific authors, or just rogue comments where people shit on manga or their creators relentlessly. Just recently, and this isn't a Jump author, the creator of Gachiakuta deactivated their Twitter account due to harassment, and while Twitter is an especially caustic environment, it's often the case that hate propagates online. It doesn't help now that the internet itself has been weaponized against its users, using its algorithms to incentivize rage, so you post and click more and more. It's become a machine oiled by hate. When you think about it in this way and add on things like excessive spam bots and scams, old websites dying or not being maintained, fandom eating away at dedicated blogs or fan sites with their shitty pre-templated ones, or AI filling what was once a lush garden full of human creativity and interaction with literal garbage and poison that erodes the mind on our own digital and physical worlds. It's so tiring and disappointing that we've permanently scarred something so interesting and pivotal to the development of humankind. But in recent years, the yearning for the old internet has increased. There are more and more videos on this topic or explorations into old websites and internet culture. There's also more people returning to the old way of doing things, starting their own blogs or websites through things like NeoCities. The Wayback Machine, which was used pretty extensively throughout this video, also exists, which is brilliant coupled with the Internet Archive. And despite people trying to take it down over and over again, it's ever resilient, being backed by countless amazing people. Culture and communities still blossom across the internet despite its ever-changing, hostile environs. And while things might continue to get worse, it's important to keep fighting for the internet as a resource and means of communication, as a place to share news, ideas, and art. And you can help protect it in numerous ways, from things like donating a little bit of money to sites like the Internet Archive, or calling your representatives in whatever country you live in to push back against dangerous changes that could make the net less accessible. Even doing simple things too, like building little communities, sharing your thoughts via writing like in blogs, or making little videos makes the internet a little brighter too. Sharing things around is the crux of all of this, and I think the internet is at its best when it's a free wellspring of human knowledge and feeling. So to cap off this video, I want to share some really cool resources I use when researching for videos on Shonen Jump, which you can play around with and look into to find some interesting data. First off, we have Jajanken, a database available in English and Japanese that tracks every single Jump manga that's ever been serialized, including its placements in the magazine's table of contents, its number of chapters, as well as when a series gets a color page or goes on hiatus. It's invaluable as a way to find when a series begins or how long it's been running, giving you the data in a clear and very easy to understand way. Comic Vine is another cool database-like website that tracks comics, including manga, and for Shonen Jump, every single issue ever has been documented with its cover and what manga ran in it at all times, with, from what I've observed, minimal mistakes. Even as a gallery of Shonen Jump's covers, it's just a very cool resource, but it's similarly handy to Jajanken as a method of finding out when a manga was running in the magazine at any given time. It also links to the individual artists and their series, so you can access images of any of the series covers with ease. KTR's Comic Room is a site I've recently found that's all in Japanese, but it's especially impressive with its search functionality, letting you see a graph of every single manga that ran in the magazine, as well as having a database of one-shots dating all the way back to 1984, which is especially impressive to me, as one-shots are usually a bit more time-consuming to find info on. Manga Properties is another amazing website full of articles with many deep dives into older Shonen Jump issues and authors, which I'd also heavily recommend checking out if you're a fan of Shonen Jump's older history. Analyze It is another impressive venture in collecting information and opinion on Shonen Jump, as well as other manga magazines, with it being in Portuguese. Here you can find articles on current and older manga, which might be especially interesting to people who haven't checked out the site before. There are surely tons of other websites, blogs, forums, and YouTube channels out there with a wealth of information or perspectives on the magazine too, like Gon and Killua. Searching for Greed Island, everything is out there on the net, scattered around on site after site, ready for you to find. I think this aspect of hunting for information, researching, reading books, collecting data, and going down rabbit holes is our modern day equivalent or digital equivalent of going on an adventure. It has its own drawbacks and appeals, but it's a process that's fun and enriching. So hopefully, throughout this video, I've managed to convey this, as well as show how the early internet impacted Shonen Jump in a few different ways. This was a more spur-of-the-moment video that came about due to the research I was doing on Jump manga, noticing that a fair few series had integrated the internet into their plots and world. I also have become increasingly interested in the internet, how it was years ago and how we interact with it now. So I thought I'd weave together all the interesting things I found into a little video. This is by no means a comprehensive look into how the internet has impacted Jump overall. I'd actually be terrified to know what that video would look like, but this is my experience with the topic, which I hope was informative, interesting, or at the very least entertaining. If you thought this was cool, please consider sharing it around and checking out the rest of my videos. If you like the historical tidbits related to Weekly Shonen Jump, I have a whole series where I delve into the magazine's history, where some of the info may be repeated here or expanded on with new context. I also have videos covering more modern Jump manga, like with my X-Files series, where I take a more sustained look at some of the series Weekly Shonen Jump has decided to cancel. As always, a huge thanks goes to the many people who have supported me thus far through watching these videos, sharing them around, or through support over on Patreon. If you'd also like to support the future of the channel and videos like this, consider hopping on by and throwing me $1 or $2. Patrons get access to some bonus videos where I talk about the newest manga Shonen Jump has to offer, as well as access to polls which help decide what videos I make next. At the $3 tier or higher, patrons also get a unique little doodle drawn by me to represent themselves in the credits of all of my videos, like the following wonderful people. Thank you: Trinity, Jade, Kazuku Garu, Suraquil Zero, Holly the Apothecary, Mayu, It's Fako, Yellowtail, Lay Sloggett, Crispy Bacon, Joe Henshin, Full Metal, Unquestionable, Yuzakura Psycho, Wurzel, Violent, Cactus, Joni, City Name E, Vina Burrito, Caffeine Dad, Cryonaut, Crash, 41IZ, Hong, Jamie Reynolds, Manu, Poke Emblem, James Miller, Jopa Monkey, Just a Virus, Star Sphinx, PK Broly, Fenrir Black, Elijah Espinoza, Neo Humanoid, Mark Nielsen, Electropirate, Jay Vasso, Three Frogs in a Trenchcoat, Sir Flash, Gay Shark, Slimy Okra, Giddista, Wavy Sky, TG Talks Manga, John Jerry 722, Andrew, Xenoman, Missile, Tara Elizabeth, Stratomega 13, Dennis Tambic, Jubei, Lise, Frog Dude, Back on Earth, Yustin Maikage, Papa Aeon, Gwenta, Mamina, Nozarashi, VHS Enthusiast, Kaito 4, Altair, Yagiti Hoshi, Last of the Red Rose, Imaginary Numeral, Hilltop, Bako Draws, Otaku Gamer X, Deadpan, Shy Monkeys, Jonathan Dragonet, John Sanford, Color, Jaime, Strawberry Prosione, Vaz, Palette, Ruiner, Juice, Kuromi Nox, Eric Gorski, Miss the Shira, Grizz Exploder, Dexdora, Enio Showo, Cheese, Emmy, Benjamin, Tenmaku Lover, Taifumi Studios, Ignate, Iliades, Gyrus, Kanojo, King Snacks, Siderune, Daniel, Melons, Ichiazulu, Modest Matt, Archgoat PL, Borkalaser 9000, Iron Graham, and Hexical. Thank you all so much for being patrons, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to be kind and take care.